Hello, welcome to the rule of thumb. In the episode 2 of the Korean technique, we will gonna talk about the aiming and the drawing. Before beginning the drawing, I start the aiming actually by putting the bow arm, putting closer to its final position. So if I'm shooting on the level target, I just put my hand on the target where it needs to be in the final position, and then I try to move this hand only on the axis to the target, not left, not right, but pointing all the way through the drawing to the target. This actually ensures the fact that you are pushing correctly, that you are pushing with the same amount of pressure that you are using for pulling the string. You don't lose this balance. It means that you're pushing correctly and the bow is suited to your power. So I start aiming before starting drawing. I put my hand in the final position of the aim, and then I take my grip and start drawing. During the draw, I try to maintain the arrow on the trajectory, on an imaginary trajectory to the target. This is, for me, this is what instinctive or intuitive or traditional way of shooting means. You shoot a lot of arrows, hopefully with the same set of arrows or similar set of arrows, thousands and tens of thousands of times, and you watch your trajectory, you let your brain make a database of all these trajectories. So I'll put the hand in the final position. I'll try to put my hand in the same line with the arrow. My forearm has to be in the same line with the arrow. So the aiming, it's made throughout the drawing procedure, and at the end of the draw, you are at the final position. You reach your anchor points, and we will speak about the anchor points at the end of this episode. But now we just stick with the aiming. After you check all your anchor points, you make all the final aiming, especially on a vertical axis, because on left to right axis you need to maintain the bow hand in the same position all the time. But if during the drawing you lose some of the vertical alignment, you make the final adjustments just before initiating the release procedure. I am not a fan of gap shooting. I don't know if it's possible with Korean styles of any other type of Asiatic style, but I think if you shoot enough arrows and you don't change bows and arrows all the time, your brain can help you shoot instinctively, just looking at the target and having the shaft like in out of focus in your front view, and just evaluating the trajectory of the arrow based on many arrows shooted before. That's why for my students I don't recommend intermediate distance of shooting. Just two type of exercises: Makiwara styles, 2-3 meters, just for form. And if you want to improve your accuracy, you have to shoot at least 30-40 meters in order to let your brain see the trajectory of the arrow. And in order to improve your accuracy, also it's a good idea to shoot, if you have access, to shoot with lighted knocks during the night, because that way the brain, your eyes and the brain sees all the trajectory, and you will see the slight mistakes in release, because the arrow will tremble. About drawing the arrow, after you put your bow hand in the final position and you ensure that your hand is locked down in a position. This is my take, especially with heavy bows. I don't believe it's a good idea to move something around the elbow during the drawing procedure. So I recommend locking this hand, and how the Koreans put it, after you start drawing, you start also pushing, like trying to push a mountain. And this pushing is maintained throughout the release. The release is not coming with a relaxation of the bow hand, but rather a continual motion of pushing in the upper part and pulling with the little finger. So I put the hand in the final position. This wrist has to be very relaxed, and it's a good idea, in order to force the relaxation in this hand, to bend it intentionally the other way. Because if you bend it like this, just a little bit, when you start drawing, it will straighten right up. But if you bend it like this, how many people are inclined to do at the beginning, it's the release will be affected, because you will have tension in the upper arm, and you don't use only your back muscle for pulling. Another important aspect of the pulling that I found in Japanese writing is that you don't need to use much stronger force that it's needed to pull the string back. They say you have to weight the bow with your finger. So what is that meaning? Is that you don't grasp the string just like insanely tight, but you let the bow and the strings tell you how much tension you need in the string, in the hands of the string, because this weighting of the bow, this measuring, means that you are closer to the release than holding very, very, very tight, and the release will be crispier and cleaner. Another thing is that after hundreds of arrows in one session or a contest, you will tire more easily if you don't relax your wrist. So the wrist is relaxed, you start pulling and pushing in the same time. This hand is moving only in the axis toward the target, and the upper part of the body, it's moving around, and this hand is also doing a linear motion behind the arrow on the same axis to the target. So all the time the left hand is pushing in the target, and the right hand is pulling from the target in the same axis. Let's try to see how this looks. The full draw actually is not a static one. If you think that you have reached a full draw, you check your anchor points, and then you relax and start doing final adjustments, fine tuning. It's not a good idea, because the pressure of the bow will collapse your body. Maybe not visible, but it will be visible on target most of the time. So what you are supposed to do is, when you come at full draw, maintain a micro expansion. Maybe it's not visible from upside, but you ensure that you're not collapsing your bow arm or the back muscle. So you micro expand all the way through the release. The anchor point, actually there are many systems, but I use a 3 or 4 point anchor system, which means that I have many points of my body where I make contact with the installation. So the first and the most important is the shaft on the face. What I say 3 or 4 because if the bow allows me to open more, I also like to make 2 points of contact on the face in order to be sure that my bow hand is always in the same relation with the eyes, because you have to minimize all the variables in order to maintain accuracy. So that's why if you take 2 points on your face of contact, you ensure that the arrow it's in the same angle all the time on the face. So the corner of the mouth and the tip of the ear, depending of the size of the ear, could be one of them, but you will find your own comfort zone. The important thing is that you keep shoulders down and you'll keep a slight distance. You'll keep a slight distance between your forearm and your arm, because that way the release is easier than if you close it like this. So this is upper than this one. Let's try another one. And the other points of anchor, it's the string, it's on the chest in the same position, and the tip of the arrow, it's on the finger, on the window made by the finger. So you have 3 points that you check: the drawing and also the angle of the bow in relation to your body. So it should look like this. During the drawing process, the arrow is sustained by the pressure made with this part of the finger, which I told you about in the previous episode. And this pressure should be eliminated at the end of the drawing. So you make the drawing, you are at full draw, you check the anchor points, and just before release, you twist the hand in the clockwise direction in order to release the pressure from the arrow, because this pressure could slap the arrow into the bow or throw it in another direction. So this should look like this. You're drawing by twisting a hand like this, anti-clockwise, and then just before releasing, you take the pressure out of the nock. If you need to shoot uphill or downhill from the same position that we talked about earlier, you just begin the drawing with the hand in the final position. It's the same. So you put your hand up and you align your body starting from the bow hand. If you need, you can bend the knee slightly more if you want to shoot uphill, the right knee. If you want to shoot downhill, the left knee. For uphill, it will look like this. I put the hand in the final position and I start drawing, and you can change uphill, downhill, back. But it's not a good idea to change the elevation of the hand. You change the elevation just by changing the whole system from up here, just by bending the torso or bending the torso and the knees. Let's do a couple of shots to recapitulate. So the center up front, legs slightly relaxed, the torso activated, the chest relaxed. You pull with your back muscle, this wrist relax, and you're pulling, you're pushing in the upper part of the bow, you're pulling in the lower part of the bow. Looks like there are some stones around here. Let's hope we don't break the arrow. If I don't shoot long distances, I like to play just with one arrow, and this judo type, it's very nice to play with all the time. But you have to be careful what you do with your index, because all type of broadheads shot with a bow without a window. You have to be very careful not to catch your index or another finger in the broadhead. So in this case, I put this index on the bow. Slightly jerk. And the last one. After talking about aiming and drawing, the next episode will be a very nice one, I hope, about release and katra. What katra means, how do you make it, or how do you let it make it itself. But I'm not giving you spoilers. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.